Hey guys, Coach Herb. Sorry I can't be with you today. It's unfortunate, but we're still going to finish out this unit the same way that we started it. You've got a few things left on your notes, and I'm going to go over that quickly in this video. Like I said, with the Industrial Revolution, there were a lot of things going on that really needed to be um, taken care of, or that governments and the people in charge were kind of um, cautious about, and they wanted to regulate it in some way. And so they developed economic systems that would help maybe fix a lot of the issues of the Industrial Revolution. And so we're going to look at those today, and we're going to start with capitalism. Again, we talked about last week that the best and worst parts of capitalism is that this there was this widening gap between the rich and the poor, and so this was a good thing, with all the money that's being made, but a very bad thing for you if you were not making money. And capitalism is based on the idea of private ownership of the means of production, meaning that individuals or companies can create goods or factories to create goods and sell them for a profit. And that's kind of the main idea. And so, that individuals, private owners, the government does not own the means of production. Private owners make decisions about what and when to produce, what to pay workers, and how much product should cost. And this is one of the benefits of capitalism for factory owners or business owners, because they can make as much profit as they want, but also that has some downside effects as well. Uh, those decisions either help a business succeed or cause it to fail. And you can think of many examples of this. Whether it was to release a new iPhone, or to pay workers more. Maybe they don't have workers quit. Maybe they give them time off. Whatever it may be, private owners get to make those decisions in capitalism, where we'll see in other systems that's not the case. Another idea of capitalism is the idea of free competition. And that you can kind of think about competition and what that means. The idea of companies competing against one another. Well, free competition means that anyone can enter the market. People should compete with each other without government interference. This is where Adam Smith comes up with the ideas of laissez-faire. That you know government should stay out of the economic situation. Government free, or an economic situation free of government intervention, is the idea of laissez-faire. And so, uh, this is where free market economics really come from. The most deserving person should win. Uh, the one with the best methods, best decisions, will make the most money and possibly put the inferior people out of business. And this is one of the negative aspects of capitalism, is that if your idea or your means of production are not as uh, up to date or as good as someone else's, then you possibly may lose your job, you may lose your business, and it may cost you overall. So uh, this is a major point of capitalism. It's what a lot of people don't like. And as popular as capitalism is, a lot of people have problems with this idea, is that not everyone makes it. Free competition is what keeps the price the lowest possible. This is because it's based on the idea of uh, supply and demand and many other aspects of economics. But free competition means that anyone can enter the market and say that they're going to offer a lower price. Where, like I said, we'll see kind of the stark difference as we compare and contrast socialism and communism. Both of these systems differ greatly in this regard, but free competition helps keep prices low. When people compete, like I said, they're naturally trying to sell a good for the lowest price, since it's what attracts more customers. So this is, kind of the reason why capitalism does work, because overall it's better for the consumers. You know, Things that are not this way in our country are like airfares, gas. They don't really compete, but you can kind of think about it. We tend to go after the cheapest good no matter what. Not all the time. Obviously, certain things are the exception to this rule, but if gas is literally 1 cent cheaper on one side of the road, we'll make sure that we go that way. So certain things are not this way, but many things are in our economic situation here in the United States. We'll talk about communism a little bit as well, and obviously there's a lot of misconceptions about communism and what it is, and there's a political spectrum you'll see in your assignment today, and you'll see that communism is on the far right and capitalism is on the far left, and then socialism is in the middle, and you'll understand why here in just a little bit. But communism has obviously had a lot of issues over the course of its time being an economic system, but we tend to connect it with Nazi Germany and other ones because they were similar in regard to this, but they were, not communist. Communists were more of the Russians and the Chinese, and we'll see that, I guess, here in just a second. The wide divide between workers and factory owners in the 1800s led to another theory of economics called communism. So the differences in how the workers and the factory owners saw themselves is what led to the development and the adoption of communism in many places. It was invented by Karl Marx and another theorist named Frederick Engels, and he was a harsh critic of capitalism as he believed it exploited the workers. And you can think about it. Owners set the prices and wages in capitalism, so he has a point. He and Frederick Engels published what is called the Communist Manifesto in 1848, and this book details the idea of a revolution of economics. He said that workers or the proletariat would eventually rise against the rich or the bourgeoisie due to their poor treatment, and so he felt that there was a revolution coming, and it makes sense. I mean, he had lived through many different revolutions in his time period, and he was seeing that the world was not going to continue in this way, and that the workers would revolt and create a classless society. Communism would correct the problems of capitalism because there would be no private ownership. These are some of the tenets of communism. No private ownership of property. Now, when we think of this, you got to remember public lands are owned by the government. Private lands are owned by the people. And so no private ownership of property means that everyone owns everything. Private ownership encourages greed, and in communism, property was to be shared, and the people would control the economy. So it would be this big market where everyone shares everything and it's all distributed equally. There would be no gap between the rich and the poor, and economic equality would finally take place. And again, these are ideas, that we take from the Enlightenment, but we got to realize that many of these ideas are a little bit harder to come about than others. But the ideal, I guess I should say, is noble. Again, it was trying to rectify a problem from the Industrial Revolution. Money, education, land would all be shared by the people. And that sounds great. In theory, that sounds amazing. We love the idea that everyone gets a piece of the pie. But it's a little bit harder than that. Marxism while not as popular in the 1800s, inspires revolutions in Russia, Cuba, China, and Vietnam in the 1900s. One way that I can put it to you is that if we all took a test, if everybody in your class took a test, and that if everyone got their grades back, and I had equaled out the grades to the point where maybe the person that made 100 now made a 75. Well, they're not going to be maybe too upset, but they're probably not going to be just happy because they worked really hard to make their 100. But I took some of their points and gave them to someone else and made, everybody shared, and so everybody had equally. Well, then that person tries a little bit less the next time. So the next time we take a test, everyone makes a 60. And so that person tries a little bit less the next time, and the next time it's a 50, and the next time it's a 40. And then finally, eventually, it will get to the point where it's a 0, because that person that was trying really hard decides it's not worth trying hard at all. And so everyone eventually falls into that route. Now, that's an extreme example, but that's what tends to happen in communism. A lot of misconceptions come about due to the idea that communism and socialism are the same or one and the same, and they're really not. There are stark differences between the two. It's linked to communism because it's very similar, but it has some unique differences. It calls for the people to largely control the means of production, but instead of it being completely classless and there being no government intervention, it differs in that socialists do not believe that all private property should be shared. Only the means of production should be controlled by the people. But the people can still own things, meaning that, if you work really hard and you save your money, you can have other things that are different than everyone else. You can kind of see it here in this cartoon. This is just temporary. The free market works best when there's no government intervention. Get in line, and this talking about all these different businesses and ideas getting help from the U.S. Treasury. And that's really what socialism is about, is the idea of the wealth being shared. It's more about the redistribution of wealth. Socialists or socialism only want to narrow the gap between the rich and the poor. They believe the government should redistribute the wealth to make society more fair. So that's kind of what that's about, is the difference between communism and socialism. Communism, everyone shares everything and it's all equal. Socialist or socialism want to narrow the gap, but if you want to save your money, you can. We'll redistribute the wealth a little bit to make it more even. Many countries have socialist elements in their economics, and one of the examples is the United States. Ideas like Medicare and Medicaid for the poor, they're funded from taxes taken from working Americans. And so those are ideas that are redistribution of wealth because it's taken from people that maybe have insurance or don't even use these things to fund things that help others. In Canada, there's government-run health care. It means that all people pay higher taxes so that the government can provide free health care to its people. And so there's another example, where everyone's given free health care, even though maybe everyone doesn't work for it. And in Germany and much of Europe, taxes are higher, but people can study at universities for free. So they get a college education, but they pay higher taxes. So, if you don't want to go, that's fine, but you miss out on the benefit that you are basically paying for. And so those are just some examples of the economic systems that come about due to the Industrial Revolution. All of it is an attempt to try to regulate this new world that we're living in. And you'll learn more about those later on. Your assignment for today has to do with these ideas as well, and we'll look at those here in just a second. So the first thing that you're going to do is you're going to take this little survey, and I've just messed it up. This economic system survey, and what it's going to do is it's going to show you whether or not you are somewhere along the lines of a socialist, a capitalist, or a communist. And most of you will fall somewhere on that spectrum, but all you have to do is read the statements as like number one, property and the means of productions, factories such as those should be owned by businesses and individuals. And then you just mark whether or not you agree with it or you disagree with it. and just very simple there. And my computer's going very slow. But, you just put an X in it, whether you agree or disagree. So when individuals follow their own self-interest, progress will result. Do you agree or disagree with that statement? At the end of it, you'll have, 10 agrees or disagrees, and you'll go to this one here. You'll read this information. It says, it says, as you reveal which system the statement relates, these are instructions for me, but you're going to have to do this on your own. You need to mark the appropriate boxes. Items 1, 2, 5, 7, and 10 are related to capitalism. Items 3, 4, 6, 8, 9 relate to socialism. As you go over each item, have students mark there. Which one did you more closely identify? So again, you can kind of see the spectrum here on the right or on the bottom. You take where your results and then you answer the exit ticket for the day. So do you agree with the results of the poll? Explain why you agree or disagree in a paragraph. So right here, you will type. You may not want to type that way. You may want to type in that one and make it a little bit smaller. And you would type, I agree with the statements that are made here because I do want to help people and whatever it is that you want to help. So you make an argument of why you agree or disagree with the results. And cite some personal examples, cite some things that you may have learned about yourself or about these systems of economics. And if you have any questions, send me an email and I'll try to help in any way I can. But like I said, I apologize that I can't be there, and I won't get to see you again, which is frustrating until the new year. But I hope that you have a great day and a Merry Christmas. See y'all.